Bismillah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. There was a man who was journeying, he had no food. He was seeking truth, he was seeking love. He was sure that he would find love if he set out for it. He was seeking the love of Allah, I thought. And he was finding his way along a river. But he couldn't find enough food there, and one day he saw something floating in the river, and it looked like a beautiful cake. And he took it out of the river, and it was floating in a little container, you know, slow-moving river, like some of these southern Virginia rivers. Not the new river, it has currents in it. And he took it out and he said, "Oh, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, Allah's providing for me." And he ate this cake, you know, this thing. He said, "See, Allah's providing for me." So he walked on, and you know, he got tired and he thought about giving up. And the next day, and again another cake appeared, little cake, you know, caked food. I don't mean like cake like birthday cake. And again, Allah provided for him, and he ate the cake, and another day he's walking along. And day after day after day, at around the same time, he gets this gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He finally winds up at this fortress, like castle. And he sees this beautiful maiden. And he just arrives there at the time to see her put into the water this hard cake, you know? He says, little Allah has brought me to this beautiful, beautiful woman, this beautiful maiden, you know? He found it. He didn't go to the matchmaking thing at Isna. He didn't, you know? And he fell in love with her, and he wanted to marry her, and he said, "You must feel the same thing I feel, because you knew I was coming. Allah planted in your heart this knowledge as I was coming, because you've been feeding me every single day." She says, "What are you talking about?" "I'm a princess, and look at you. You're this. Who are you? Look at you. You're some crazy darvish, and you think I'm here for you? I'm a princess." He said, "What are you?" He said, "You've been feeding me every day." She said, "I haven't fed you anything." "Yes, you have. I see it. You just put that food in the container. You must have known I was coming. This is Allah's will. I know Allah's will when I feel it, and I know it. And every day, it's the same time you're feeding me." She said, "What are you talking about? This is my makeup. I throw it away every day. I start new." And he was eating her makeup, you see. What do we perceive? What we think? We project what it is we want. And to join in this journey, the Sera Suluk, we have to remember what it is we want. You know, people spend their life accumulating wealth. But there are some people who spend their life accumulating thawab. Good deeds, blessings. The wealth is temporary, it's going to go away. But the good deeds and the results of those are eternal. And love of wealth is like loving disease. Instead of embracing health, you embrace disease. And love of good deeds, love of thawab, is embracing health. And, you know, the wealth can buy cars and can buy, these are expensive. Where'd you all go? Oh, there you are. How do you do that? You come back and forth. These are expensive. These cost like, well, I got the cheaper model this time. The first one's cost $700 and some. This cost about $400 and some. Graded lenses, you know, and all that. But does buying these buy me sight? No. It corrects my sight, but it doesn't buy me sight. And wealth is not going to buy me sight. How much money I have, I'm not going to get basira. But wealth does two things. It can control people, can rule over them. Tyrants have, well, look at Mugabe, how he's destroyed his country in Zimbabwe. Used to be a wealthy country, huh? Or the Congo, a wealthy country, the breadbasket of Africa. And look what's happened. Because people use their wealth to control people. The wealth can buy books, buy Quran. Can't buy the Quran, you can buy the cover of the Quran's inside of it. But can it give you knowledge of the Quran? No. You can buy the medicine, even the homeopathic medicine, but it can't buy you health. Except in the United States. In the United States, it's the only way you're going to get health if you have money. What a travesty that is. You can't buy the love in someone's heart. You can get a lot of physical pleasures, but you can't get maqam, spiritual station. You can't get even a hal, moment. So the real ulama are not the people who just have a red hat and a black tassel and a white thing brown about it because they went to Azhar. The real mashaykh, the real awliya don't concern themselves with acquiring wealth. If they have it, they use it well. But they focus on performing good deeds. And only good people can perform good deeds. Oh, of course, there's a gray area. You could be not such a good person and do something good for someone. But probably you're going to do it for some self-aggrandizing reason. And a true sheikh, a true murshid, a true spiritual guide has to keep his eyes on the good deeds of the murid, not on the wealth of the murid. There are plenty, and people in this community, we spent till 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:15 in the morning talking about community last night, for those of you who weren't there. It takes money. There are many generous people here who help each other out in need, who help me out in need, help each other out in need. But our eye is on their spirituality, on their heart. And I hope and I pray that you are all going to make progress in your good deeds, in your adab. Not just saying the right thing at the right time. Not saying alhamdulillah when it's appropriate, or standing up when I walk into a room, or when an elder walks into the room, a buzurg. Even more than just taking care of your mom and your dad or whoever it is you take care of, but in remembering why you're doing in dhikr, and in muraqabah, in reflection, and in your commitment to the Sir Suluk, your commitment to that journey, your commitment to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Why gamble with the game of life? The lottery sometimes has $500 million in it, $350 million in it. The odds are one out of 176 million that you're going to get anything. And we all say, oh, well, when I hit the lottery, I'm going to help you, Sheikh. You know? Please don't gamble the lottery. Don't gamble with your life. When there were spoils in the war, and there weren't many wars that the Prophet ﷺ fought in, and some say there were less than 350 people that were ever killed in those wars, and some say there were less than 3,000 in all of them. The spoils would be distributed equally among the people. But the real winner in this journey, the real winner in the race to eternity, really can't understand, can't grasp what the spoils are of that conflict. Because life has conflicts in it. Life is like a battle often. I don't like to make war analogies. I've seen too much war. But there are things that are not dissimilar in life. Loss and grief and destruction, and one minute everything's fine and the next minute the metaphorical bombs are falling around you. And the one who loses can't imagine the defeat that there is in that loss. Not about war, but in this journey. And at the core of much of this is the good adab, the etiquette. The way that one can really attain what is good in life, what is honorable in life. And more than that, what is happiness in the hereafter. It's related that our Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said that the believer with the best character and the best adab, the best etiquette, is the one with the most perfect faith. So we have to remember that good adab is the best blessing after having accepted this journey, this Islam. And the buzurg, the elders, the honored people, have mentioned that there are a number of signs of that good etiquette. When you meet someone, have a good attitude and a cheerful demeanor. Empathize with the needs of other human beings. Even if they don't agree with their needs, empathize with their thought that they have this need. Help those who are in need in any way that you can. Don't in any way harm another human being. Don't obstruct in any way a person's good actions and their good intentions. Don't speak ill of people. Don't point out their faults unless you are authorized or asked to do that. And in the same vein, remember and look at your own faults and look at the other person's good character. The people who treat you wrongly, treat them with kindness. Respond to them with kindness. If someone apologizes to you who has wronged you, accept their apology. And be moderate in everything that you do. Find the balance, find the center. Allah loves the middle way. And stay away from pursuing things that you know are worthless, that have no real value to you. And stay away from things that have value to you but have no value to anyone else through you. And so what these kinds of admonitions do is basically say, don't cause any harm to anyone. Don't cause any pain. And if you do, seek the forgiveness and try never to do it again. Even if you have what you think the best of reasons are, think twice. If you are in an intolerable situation you think is an intolerable situation, but your changing the situation will cause misery and pain and loss to someone else, don't do it. Allah will give you the way out, or the way in, or the way to ameliorate the situation. You know, the old saying, you know, you can't, once the milk is spilled or spoiled, you know, you can't turn it back. Once the milk is spoiled, you can't make it fresh again. Hazrat Junaid al-Baghdadi, rahmatullah alayhi, used to say that he preferred the company of a wrongdoer who had good etiquette over a scholar who had bad etiquette, who was arrogant. It is a characteristic of many scholars. That's why they hang out with each other. They tend to be arrogant with the non-scholars. And the salik, or the salika, the seeker, who thinks about their spiritual training, their tasawwuf, to be just to make the awrad, to make the wazifa, to make the weird. Is a person who's suffering under a tremendous weight of ignorance. Because the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to be in the heart. And the remembrance of Allah that's not even on the tongue and in the heart can be compromised if the mind is not in submission in the moment of recitation. So outwardly, those bad guys who call themselves Muslims, who blew up the tomb of Jonah 2 days ago, Yunus, who blew up the statues in Afghanistan years back, the ones who rape and pillage and kill, who are forcing people to convert from Christianity, who are taking the crosses down from their churches, who are raping the girls and the women, who those people, outwardly, when you watch them pray, their prayer is perfect. Looks right. But internally, they are evil. They live in darkness and they promote darkness. Now, I don't care what's going on their tongue. It becomes poison. Just like poison can become a medicine. Like nux vomica, called poison nut in homeopathy. If you eat that nut, it's poison. But if it's homeopathically prepared, it's a phenomenal remedy. Just like poison can become a remedy, what seems to be good, even the name of Allah, can become poison. And once a person has a bad attitude, and once a person has no good adab, they're never going to attain to anything unless they find the way out of that abyss, join and find a good guide, and try to recoup what they have lost if it's at all possible. At least come out of it with the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's what the Prophet ﷺ said. I say he came to uplift, he came to affirm the good character of human beings. And so a Sufi who doesn't have good character is not a Sufi, just as a Muslim who does not live for the goodness in those list of things I gave you is not a Muslim. And I don't care. I don't care what you're not supposed to say, you're not supposed to say, and you're not supposed to do, and you're not supposed to. They're not Muslim. But they carry the name. If I go out, astaghfirullah, and I commit some terrible act, and I'm caught, they say, "What's your name?" And I say, "My name is Yasser." Who's going to get the blame? Till it's all cleared up. He's going to get the blame. My name is Colin. He's going to get the blame. My name is Muslim. And it's our duty and it's our responsibility to understand this. There's a saying. Then I want to turn this around a little. That a mountain is a pebble for the person who works hard, and a pebble is a mountain for the lazy person. And I understand when you say to me, who are those of you my students or others who are practicing, that I don't have time to, I haven't had the time to sit in Muraqabah, I haven't had time to do the meditation. I know I should be doing better, I should be doing better. You're making mountains out of pebbles. And what's going to change that? What's going to change it? Because you can count, but over here I'm doing all this good work. I'm helping these people and I'm doing that and I've given zakat and I've done this and I'm doing that. It's like moral equivalency. There's no spiritual equivalency there. That's something you should be doing. And this is something you should be doing. And when you're doing both of them, believe me, the thawab is much greater, the reward is much greater than you could imagine. So you always have to take the first step. You always have to be practical in life. The original name for Legacy International, our nonprofit, was the Institute for Practical Idealism. That's the legal name for it. And you can see why, in the same spiritual vein, the same thing happens. We have to be practical. The person who is lazy is always looking for new opportunities, and the person who has strength and who has attention is always creating new opportunities. So when things are difficult, don't worry about it. So I said yesterday, when something seems to stand in your way, it's only an opportunity to make you stronger. And be honorable. Don't lower yourself in front of people. Don't lose your enthusiasm. Don't lose your heart. And remember that our job, as the Prophet ﷺ said, it's zakat to remove a stone from the path of a person who's walking on the path. So, whatever you are, become the best at it. And be willing to transform and transfer that knowledge and that capability into something that you never even thought about. Because you may be called to do that. Like I explained to you in the community center, how we've been called to change what we are over the years. This life is not about you. It's an opportunity for you. And so people will benefit from your knowledge, and they'll benefit from your guidance, and you'll benefit from your understanding. And there'll be people who, in Morocco, there's a saying that I don't know how, it's like, it's these idiomatic expressions, and you only say them when they apply. But they say, don't jump on the back of a lazy donkey. People take advantage of weakness. So there are things that are never going to stay the same. The seasons are going to change. Yesterday it rained. The day before yesterday, the night before yesterday, it rained, and this morning it rained, but yesterday was a bright day. Your health is going to change, and your diet's going to change, and it's going to be hard to give up the meat when the doctor tells you to become a vegetarian, and it's going to be hard to do this and hard to do that, and okay. And we live in a very tumultuous time, chaotic time. What's happening to human beings in this world is not just bad, it's not just horrible, it's not just miserable, it's obscene. No one seems to have any shame. So you got to stay away from the bad company, but you might find yourself in some bad places like we do. We find ourselves in Libya or Tunisia or other places where there's conflict, in Egypt and other places. You might find yourself in bad places, but don't ever find yourself among bad company. Keep the sohbet of the good company. The good people, the decent people, who are struggling to put food on their table and to do what's right. No table. They don't have a table. On the floor. These are the most decent people in the world, not because they're poor, but because they believe. I know some very wealthy people in 6th of October City, outside of Cairo. 6th or 7th? 7th of October, isn't it? Live in huge mansion. But in that huge mansion, they run a non-profit for the poor people in need. Don't judge people by the outer. Be among the good people. And be alive. Many, many years ago, at a very critical time in my own life, before I was Sheikh Ahmad Abdul Rashid, I was Guru Vasudeva Das. And I went to a friend of mine who had a big ashram, very wealthy man, made a lot of money in teaching health through yoga. And his sheikh, his guru was there, Kripavanandaji. And he was Mona, silent. He only spoke once a year, on his birthday. And I came there, and he broke his silence for me. Before he became a sannyasi, a monk, he was a singer of classical Indian music and poet. And he began singing for me a song in Gujarati. And it was translated by my friend who was the guru of that place. And his song, the line that he kept repeating was, if you're drowning in the ocean, are you going to swim or are you going to wait to be rescued? And then he stopped singing that and he looked at me for an answer. And I thought the answer should be you wait and trust that God is going to save you. And he said, no, the answer is to swim. And then it made clear to me a lot of things in my life. You swim. You make the effort. You always make the effort. Because a dead body is just going to float around. But a swimmer is going to have a direction. So try to be regular in your practice, regular in your dhikr. And I don't mean just saying Allah, 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 Allah. I just covered that a few minutes ago. Be regular in your muraqabah. Understand what tawajjuh is, how to pay attention. Even one day you might get up and do your tahajjud prayer. Who knows? Do it one day a month. Sit for 2 hours, better 3, one day a month. The first hour will go fast. Second hour will be absolute torture. And the third hour will be bliss. That's really all I have to say to you today. There are other things to say. Just because there's something you can't do, doesn't mean nobody else can do it. So don't assume that if there's something you have difficulty with, everybody's going to have difficulty with the same thing. So make alliances. Work with one another. Utilize the skills of one another. Stop thinking you've got to prove something. The proof is in your heart and with Allah. Benjamin Franklin was right. Don't put off for tomorrow what you can do today. And look deeper into people. And once you've really, really, really evaluated something, don't keep reevaluating it. Build your intuition. So now you understand maybe why I'm coming back to kind of saying these things, given what I've been speaking about. Where are we now? We're back at Tahwil. How are you going to build your understanding? Because as you build your understanding of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed, you are coming nearer to Allah, aren't you? You want to know how to come near to Allah and near to His Prophet? If you want to know how to love Allah and love His Prophet? And I don't mean just because culturally you're brought up that way and you can weep on cue. You can beat yourself in Muharram if you're a Shia, and you can cry when the name Hussein is said. I don't mean that. How are you going to build that love? You're going to develop that insight, that intuition, that tahmil, inside of you. Inshallah. Isa goes into the kitchen. He's a chef. He wants to make a smoothie for all of you. Before you go, maybe. We'll make some smoothies for you. Good, put some protein powder and everything together. And he's standing around, looking around, you see. Not Isa, I'm just using him as an example. Someone who looks like Isa. God forbid. Anyway, go in there. And you say, what's the matter? He said, well, I want to make this smoothie. I want to put all these things together. But I don't know how to make it into a smoothie. You say, look at that, there's a Vitamix over there. You say, oh, is that what that is? Unless he puts the stuff in the Vitamix and turns it on, nothing's going to happen. Right? Nothing's going to happen. You have all the good intentions in the world, but you need to know how to use the tools that you have. You can visualize what you want to happen, but if you don't know how to use the tool to make that happen, what good is it? And somebody knows how to use that tool. Are you going to be humble enough to go to that person and ask them? Are you going to be a student of that person? I once learned radionics, very esoteric healing technique that takes intuition and material skill to learn from a Benedictine priest named Father Ober. But he was a monk, he was a Benedictine monk and a priest named Father Ober from Virginia Beach. When we lived in Virginia Beach. He's long gone. He died up at St. Francis Abbey about 10, 15 years ago. And he was teaching me this healing method, you know, and I was studying homeopathy at the time, and hey, I'm a guru and I know everything at those days. I know. And he once said to me, and I kept asking him questions. What about this? What about this? And he would stop me in his very Catholic Benedictine way. He would say, after I'm done teaching you, if you have one question left, then ask it. Don't ask the question until I'm done, because I'm going to teach you what I have to teach you in the order that you can learn it. I felt so good. First I felt, and then I felt really good. The part only lasted a second because he was a good man. And he was right. He was absolutely right. What am I trying to prove? That I can ask a smart question, but I don't have all the information. You have the mosquito netting around your daughter out there, huh? Right? Why? Because you want to protect her. You want to protect her from a mosquito bite, right? Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Because the world, there's dirt in it. Oh, I wouldn't even tell you on the way up to Charlottesville the other day, I had to stop. You know. And there was a construction bathroom on the side of the road. Oh, India came rushing back to me. Rushing back to me. I couldn't imagine that I was there, let alone whoever that was who was before me. Well, life is full of filth. All that filth was beautiful vegetables and food a few hours before. I'm sorry to be so graphic. But understand that everything changes. Let's look for the good in things. We have bees. And thanks to Rabia and Musa alayhi Ramon, we revivified our bees a few years ago. And the bees give us wonderful, wonderful honey. Right? And honey, it can be a very healing element. If you have cancer, you don't want to eat it, but it can be a very healing element for your eyes, for internally, for your skin, if you have a burn. But look at what goes into making that honey. Go get one of my talks on the honeybees. Honeybees are a symbol of the Khawaja, by the way, of the Naqshbandi line. Go understand what that process is. Because we have a honeybee inside of us. So that's it, my friends. May Allah bless you. There's always more. There's Wednesdays, there's Thursdays, there's Saturdays. But I hope that I leave you with that. It's my last talk. Now I have a question for you. Do I have time? Because, you know, we live in a world of interaction, right? And before we pass out the evaluations, what are you taking away from this weekend? From this retreat?
For me, it's knowing that I'm not alone and my beliefs that kind of like the fundamental thing. Then taking away from this, knowing that I'm not alone in my beliefs or my journey, whatever. That was kind of nice when leaving for me.
Yes, sir.
There's lots of things. It's been short, it's been intense. But I think more than anything, there's two things that sort of stick out. One is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so amazing, just find jewels in the most unexpected places. It just makes me smile. You know, there's so much chaos in the outside world, and you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals to you this amazing thing that's happening in the most unexpected place, and that's wonderful. Settles my heart. And then the other part of it is that I have a sense that it's the beginning of a conversation. So it's not all of it is sorted out, but it's the beginning of a conversation.
A couple of points really struck me this weekend, and they're kind of tied together. You talked about finding that moment of silence that came before creation, and you also spoke about that all events have a visible side and an invisible side. And then connected to that is the concept of the harmonic resonance that you were speaking about last night. So I was thinking that certainly part of the cure to the feeling of the chaos and the tumultuous world that's around us and feeling overwhelmed is to turn within and seek that moment of silence that preceded all the chaos and all the confusion, and to seek resonance with that ground note, because that's the ground note that underlies everything, it seems to me.
I want to look more deeply at the effort that I do make, and then also to find more ways to make more effort.
Actually, I have a question, which is for part of the thought. It was that my question was about community. Communities are made up of individuals which are striving for harmony. You talked about striving for harmony and sustainability. But there's a community strive. Not the individuals, but there's a community as a concept or as an entity. Does that have a, like we talk about Uma, does a community have a, the whole concept of community, does the community strive for something, or is it just the individuals within the community? Because the community is made up of individuals. So I'm trying, I feel that there's, you say the world community, does it as an entity?
No, but that's back to the whole thing of resonance. If you have individuals who are striving on the same path for the same thing, even though you may conceive of it slightly differently, the whole is greater than the sum total of its parts. And so if in chaos or in complexity theory, you get an emergent phenomena out of complexity, so even the complexity of people visualizing, trying to attain the same thing, but even with slight difference, because you have exponential added complexity every time you add another individual to it. The emergent phenomena is great. So that the community consciousness lives and rises and falls as the people are in harmony with one another, and the vision is sustained. The affirmation is sustained. And that's why we say, that's why you do the same practices, you see, but they have a different effect on different people. So if I give all the students, let's say, the same niya, okay? I give to all the students the same niya. But it's tweaked, isn't it? Each one is tweaked if the necessity is there. And so you have a common image, or you share a common goal, or you share a common intention. And so therefore you have a collective, you have both the individual and you have the collective intention, and the collective power, individual power and the collective power. So there is, of course, there's a collective quote, you know, I mean, the term that's used in philosophy is collective consciousness, but it means something different. I don't want to, that's why I had to say collective consciousness, because I don't want to use that definition, but there is a collective will and a collective intention. That's why we have what we call the work enterprise, Alda Nasser, which you know very, very well. Anyone else?
So I've experienced a really dynamic understanding, or beginning of an understanding about the Quran, and it seemed to pull in everything, the environment, myself, other people, and in a way that I've never had before. And I hope that I can hold on to it and persevere with that. It's very, very special.
You know, you can open whatever problem you have. You can. And everybody has said this. You've heard it many times with many sheikhs and any imams and other. You open the Quran, whatever problem you have, you'll find the answer to it. But don't think about it just as problems. Try to understand where you are in your life. Try to understand the rubric that you're operating under, the general term. And then open the Quran with the intention to understand that principle. Don't use it like it's a divining tool. Open it to understand that principle, get guidance for that principle, and then read it for that purpose. Khadija.
I just want to say, I'm so grateful and alhamdulillah that we have this wonderful place. The more that I come here and experience your presence and all that you're doing and the humanitarian work that you're doing, which inshallah I can be a part of that. And I just want to say that the more I come here, the more I want to, I just want to stay here and just love you guys up. It's wonderful, it's so authentic.
Well, we've gotten more space recently. So figure that out. You bring your talents here. She's a wonderful massage therapist and learning other things. I want to send her back to Morocco to get training in the public health work so she can return to her country and give something back to it.
Oh gosh, that would be amazing.
Yeah, well, it's the need. The people who need it. And the king will appreciate it.
Yes, he will.
Many things, but the most striking and practical aspect of what I'm taking away from this weekend is how much we need each other and how important it is that we develop and sustain these relationships and really work towards sustaining them in whatever way we can. Sort of taken up from where Yasser is talking about today and last night, and because some of us are going to stay, but many of us are going to disperse. And you've often said the half-life of the memory of these experiences is very short. And all the distractions, like Yasser was speaking about, and we all know those in the world that are there to take us away from this, what we have right now. It's glowing on us right now, and we're basking in it. But to sustain that, and so, but not just the feeling, the emotional part, but to sustain a practical, applied plan that moving forward, that we can help ourselves with each other, and then we can work towards the common goals that we're talking about.
All good things have strange sides to it. This would be the point where Reverend Moon would hand out flowers, see, after a weekend intensive, and send everybody out to the airports and the train stations to give flowers, and then because he wanted to build an organization. And that's the point you do. And then you bring them all back and you keep them. But for us, we go out with the intention just to serve humanity, not to build anything, not to build an institution. If the institution has to be built in order to do the service, Allah will build it. You see? And sustain it. But it's not going to happen just sitting around. It's not going to happen if we stop tomorrow and say, oh, look, we did 30 years of work in the world, now we're going to wait for the reward to come. No, you have to keep doing it. Because you mentioned half-life. Who said so? Arifa.
I've been trying to integrate these thoughts, and I have three observations, three things that were spoken.
She's very organized and meticulous.
But they seem very...
There would be no legacy without her. It's true.
They seem very arbitrary, very bizarre, but I finally realized that if I thought about them as being symbols of the taqweel that you've been speaking about this weekend. One sentence you said was, good adab is a catalyst. And that made me really think about what is a catalyst? What does it do? How it transforms a situation into something else. It allows something else to happen. Another sentence you said, and this came from our conversation the first night at the community center, where you were talking about the difference between being able to see, oh, this is an opportunity, as opposed to being poised and ready so that when an opportunity emerges, you are, one is able to seize it. That it's not a seeing it and then deciding to try to use it, but there's a ripeness there so that the opportunity is an open door. So again, that was the difference between the apparent level and then the much deeper opening level. And then the third thing was something that you said on Saturday night. You said, this is not about Sharia. This is about what is coming to us from the Amal al-Amr, from the world of command. And just what a hugely different way of thinking about what it means to be a student, what it means to be a Muslim, that sentence conveyed. And I saw each one of those as being on that theme of there's the apparent and then there's the what is the transforming element deep inside it.
Bingo. Thank you. May Allah bless you. May you have safety in your journey. May Allah, may you remember that the road goes in both directions, and that many changes are in all of our lives, but by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we seem to be fairly still here. So consider it a center in a very active circle. And the center is always still. Huh? And make a point to come back. For those of you who are leaving, and for those of you who are staying over, I look forward to sharing the Eid with you. And keep on the dua, keep us all in your dua, as we'll keep you in our dua. And if there's anything I can do for you, don't hesitate to ask. And if you want to talk, don't hesitate to call. And if I'm busy, I'll just tell you I'm busy and I'll return your call. But I will return your call, inshallah. Before you go anywhere,